All right, guys. Welcome to the next tier list. And what is it? 22, 23? Yeah. It's fall. The fall animes. Anyways, we're gonna talk about the fall anime, and there's gonna be a few shows I'm not gonna talk about, like My Hero or Zaki-chan, because some of these shows are very fucking obvious. Like, you don't even tell you that My Hero's good or Zaki's mid or okay, right? You already know this. But I will be going over like the S tiers, the okay, the bad, even the underrated shows you may not have seen, right? So I'll give you a good feel what the season's been like. And as far as how the anime this year's been, obviously better than last year, as long as anime becomes more popular, so does like the value of each show, right? Or the production value. So we're going to get consistently more good quality shows each year. And yeah, let's just move on right to the first show. No time for introductions. First show, let's go. Eminence in Shadow is an underrated, great, okay show. It's a show that feels like it should be bad, but it's unironically good and unique for many reasons. It's supposed to be your typical overpowered main character isekai throwaway, but it does have good humor, entertaining plot, and best of all, it's not actually corny at all, in my opinion. I do wish they changed like a few things, but the main issue I have with the show is the fact that the main character just kind of guesses the opposing force randomly and runs with it, and for whatever reason it just works. So basically, the scene, he saves a girl from a group of kidnappers and then proceeds to reach into the darkest crevices of his colon and just tells her, yeah, must have been the Cult of Diablos. And it just worked for the rest of the show, which is supposed to be the joke, but I feel like they could have like did something like, I don't know, interrogate the kidnappers to force them to tell him like the name of the cult or something, which still would have worked later down the line because he would have still took them down, the kidnappers, and he still would have just took it semi-serious later on, and everything else would have made more sense instead of just me just being like, yeah, I guess they exist. But more or less like, yeah, sure, it works, right? But beyond that, everything else works. The tropes don't hurt to watch. The fact that he plays a side character role, and it's not by happenstance, but except he does it on purpose, mainly so he can have fun and everything. It does make everything else, the humor, more entertaining. And on that note, yeah, it has very unique humor, actually great visuals, and overall just an A tier in my book, personally. Though I do believe, generally speaking, it's probably actually B tier, but I just actually enjoyed the show so much. Came out of left field since there was no hype for it. I just appreciate it that they were actually unique. So yeah, fuck it, A tier for me. For me. Now, Love Flops. It was, and I can't stress this enough, was a typical harem anime that had nearly nothing redeemable about it. It was corny, horny for the sake of being horny, and plotless for the most part. Zero actual character development and many other things that would have just made the show absolutely D tier. Up until it wasn't a harem anime. I hate to actually spoil the twist, but it turns out that this ain't no harem anime. It started off innocent and boring, but out of nowhere things got a little weird, things got a little goofy, a little dark, depressing even. And this absolutely left field twist just made the show unironically interesting. I can't explain how much I appreciate when shows do this because, if it would have stayed the way it was, there would have been nothing to the show. It would have been this shit ass throwaway that I would have dropped eventually, but luckily I always watch at least 6 episodes of a show that I begin to watch, no matter how bad it is, just so I can properly judge a show like this. And thank God I did. And because of the tone shift and it being a unique air quote harem anime, I'm actually going to give it B tier. Granted that you'd suffer through at least 5 episodes, there is a point to the blandness in the end of it, and that's what I like to see in shows like this and Eminence in the Shadow, right? Stray away from boring obscurity and try to be unique. And yeah, Mob Psycho finally wrapped itself up for good, ending on the 3rd season, and it's unsurprisingly absolutely amazing. One of the best shows this season and probably year all around. This season mostly focuses more or less on the conclusion of everyone's character arc, so all the main side characters get more or less a conclusion, and the big ones like Dimple and Mob are getting whole arcs themselves. And I'm gonna be a little goober here and spoil the fact that Mob himself is the final conflict / threat that everybody must take care of, which I think is an amazing choice because it kind of forces this multi-episode character development arc for everybody in a way that definitely is not like a flat or corny conclusion to the series. And on top of this, and the simplistic nature of Mob's visuals, it means that of course this is one of the most impressive looking shows this season. And the masterful plot development just makes sure that Mob Psycho holds its S tier spot firmly. And it completely solidifies its place as one of the best anime series ever created, at least in our generation. But beyond that, there isn't a whole lot to say. It's just absolutely S tier. So was the other 2 seasons, and God, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do something slightly different here. I'm just gonna do Pop Team Epic and Maid War at the same time. Only because they do the exact same thing as each other, and at the exact same time, I have the same sentiments as for both of them, which is they're both unique. They're both really good. Pop Team Epic especially because their art style, when they switch everything up, right? The voice acting, right? It does its own thing. It's its own show, and there's nothing like Pop Team Epic, and that's really all I can say for it, right? Nothing super special about Pop Team Epic. Absolutely nothing bad about the show, but nothing super like, yeah, S tier, love it, right? It's just good. And then same thing for Maid War. I would say C tier, but it's just too funny. It's too goofy for me to say it's average. It's actually unironically funny and unique. I can't believe it, but a maid show, a show about maid cafes and killing each other, it's actually entertaining, and I watch every episode. But yeah, and in the end of the day, they both do the same thing, which is just one-off episode series. So they're both gonna go to B tier because it's good enough for me. Hey, I'm just gonna have to apologize now for all my daily life of Immortal King fans. It's, as the name suggests, and more so this season than the last few, it's been real fucking boring. I had to drop after 6 episodes because it just ain't doing it for me, and I wish I could explain the plot to your show, but, the name already does it for you, It's a goddamn slice of life. It commits the unholy cringe of, lack of meaningful continuity between each episode. So it's only as interesting as its individual episodes. It's not like how Pop Team Epic does it either. It's not overtly funny or goofy like Pop Team. It's just more or less corny and unimaginative with its Pokemon episodes or its cook-off episodes. It's nothing really there to hang on to, and will from at least from the 6 episodes that I've seen. But the visuals are god tier, amazing as usual, which is a theme for fall 2022, but it doesn't do anything with it, so it just looks nice. And since it's so goddamn average, I have no choice but to put it in C tier, unfortunately. Hopefully it does take itself seriously later down the line, but I can't stand another episode, so this is where I stop, at least for now. Shinobi no Itsuki is just flat out fucking ass. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. I'll keep it simple and direct. This show just didn't do the funny good enough, and that's kind of all it had going for it, in my opinion. You'd think a show about high school ninjas would at least look cool or do something to play on this somewhat unique concept, but it doesn't even do it. Not even close. It looks like balls, which I would have forgiven, but it's about as plain as the animations in the show. There's nothing I can say or even analyze here. It's just a bad show that looked average, and it's going directly to D tier, perhaps even lower for wasting my time. Though I will say, every now and then, for about 2 seconds for every other episode, it almost entertained me. Maybe chuckle here and there, but too far and few between. So L show, sadly. Spy Family was fairly okay this season, but just okay. I know this is gonna upset others, but the main flaw for Spy Family for me this season is just how uninteresting it was, and it kind of doesn't do anything too different from season 1. So for most actually, this probably means it's just as good as when it first dropped, which it kind of is. It looks amazing, good music. It's funny a lot of the time, but for me, it has to do a little bit more than just be kind of funny, right? Like, for example, how many times do we have to watch Anya cheat on her tests or questions? Or how many times do I have to watch Yor be a bad cook and get the wrong idea all the time before the joke just gets worn out and boring, right? Which, they do a lot of these jokes. It's, it's not your average show either, right? It's definitely not going to C tier, but it's not super interesting or unique. So I can't say it's A tier. It's just acceptably good. It's just great. Okay, right? just B tier, I guess. I hate to say it, but what else can I say? It didn't do anything super unique, nothing super crazy, so B tier. To Your Eternity has me a little upset and impressed at the same time. I'm upset because the first half or so of the season has been real shit ass. And the best way for me to explain how so is to look no further than the opening, which has remained unchanged for 20 episodes for some fucking reason in this season 2. And following that trend, the plot took this weird turn where nothing of true importance happened for a long while. Fuguchi just kind of dealt with the concept of love and coming to terms with kind of assimilating with the rest of the world. Becoming normal, almost. Which sucks because you think after hundreds of years he'd have the wisdom of an actual experienced man, but no, he continues to act like a child for a lot of the season, even though he should be beyond this point by now. The good part is towards episode 6 and past it, right? The show flat out just becomes interesting and good as far as circumstance goes. It's not trying to be super deep anymore or anything like that now, but I do like the direction of the show is going. It's somehow better than where it was trying to go last season. Stakes are higher and more is getting done per episode, which is what I like to see. But in general, it's been an A tier experience, but not so S tier like season 1 was, since it's kind of fucking ass in the beginning. But I've long since forgiven its mishaps in light of the plot development. So yeah, it just feels okay. The last show I consider okay, alright. Nothing too insane is Urusei Yatsura. It's about an alien falling in love with a guy who does not like her whatsoever, but everyone else. And, just so happens to be really fucking goddamn stupid at the same time, So in typical rom-com fashion, it has its cute moments, but it focuses like 90% of its efforts on the calm side, which is great, I think, but also nothing too insane, like I said before. But it is definitely an entertaining show. The art style is also super unique, so there's that. There's nothing particularly wrong with this show, except it's giving small Rent-A-Girlfriend vibes, but luckily it's not that cringe. However, it doesn't feel like it belongs to B tier though. Calling it a great show isn't something that I'm capable of, so therefore it's gonna go to C tier. High C tier though, because it's not like a casual watch. Though it kind of is, because it doesn't really do anything crazy. So yeah, just C tier. Chainsaw Man finally dropped, and it really did live up to all the hype it presented itself with. I will, however, comment on the sheer amount of goat saw deniers after episode 1 dropped and how they called the animation ass because there was CGI. The same shit they did with Mappa picking up Attack on Titan, and the same shit happened there, where the choices ultimately made was beyond correct in the long run. Chainsaw Man, I think, suffers zero flaws as far as plot and animation goes, so it's already beyond impressive, but the soundtracks and the endings just add more flavor to this already masterpiece. The pacing is there, which is something I thought they would have issues with. I thought the show was going to be moving too fast because shit happened really quick in the manga, but no, it's the other way around. It got far less done in 12 episodes than I anticipated, but in a good way. So this means really that we're due for like 3 seasons, or at least 2 more seasons in the movie, plus the manga's second part too. So all in all, this is just amazing work done by Mappa once again, and likely at the expense of the souls of their employees, but yeah. Sacrifices must be made to bring at least this much amount of guilt material back to back every year. So thanks Mappa once again. Alright, Bleach came back this year after 10 years, and oh my god, it just absolutely destroyed the competition this season. The visuals are amazing, yeah. They had a complete style overhaul, and it's just god tier, but it makes sense for I'll explain later. The soundtrack changed for the most part. It's more like a choir and orchestra mix, and instead of like the flamenco style music we're always used to before, it is a welcome change. I like it. It makes sense. It all makes sense according to the story. But the stakes, the stakes just changed completely. It is insane. There is so much blood, shit, and cum everywhere now this season that it's hard to believe that we're watching the same show. This is not Bleach. Complete 180 tone shit. Like, we're not, compared to like last Bleach, that was child shit. We're big boy shit now. Like, people are dying left or right. There's pretty much no one is safe. Everybody's liable to getting hurt or just flat out fucking murdered, dead, killed, slaughtered on the spot. Every episode's like this too. It truly nails like this hopeless vibe it was trying to go for. And you know what the best part is? above all else, zero filler, none. Not a single shit ass filler episode this season, which means I have no choice but to put Bleach into S tier. But everything changed. The style changed, the music changed, but this is more for like the Quincy stuff. But everything changed, and I fucking love it. It's just S tier. Alright, Bocchi the Rock, or Bocchi the Rock, however you say it. It's probably the second best show this season, which is, insane, right? But, that's saying something competing against Bleach and Chainsaw Man. But Bocchi is beyond good. The show is a live rock anime show, except like the music's really, really good, right? Impressive even for like an artist like me. And the animation is just outright the best thing I've seen all year. Not even close. This has to be the best style where it's just constantly bending, changing, contorting, evolving all the time, right? Not every few minutes is the same as like the last few minutes, right? And it feels like this, and it's like this every episode. So it's just been 12 episodes of pure artistic flexing, and on top of it, to top it all off, the plot isn't bad at all. It's the weakest aspect of the show, but it's definitely not what I call boring. It really is actually interesting, but only as interesting as a band story can get, I feel. But besides that, though, Bocchi the Rock, this shit came out far left fucking field with how good it is, and I'm glad to see everybody mostly feels the same way too. It really is highly rated amongst people, and it definitely deserves the S tier spot. And I'd actually bump it up to like fucking God tier, because this shit is like on a tier of its own. I feel definitely above the other shows this season. So yeah. Fuck it, God tier, bro. Alright. For the last show, let me hold on. Let me prepare myself. Let me lick my lips. Let me get ready, because I'm about to suck the shit out of the show, man. Just give it that absolute demon throat, because the last show I'm about to talk about this season is my personal favorite, which is gonna be Blue Lock. Excuse me. Let me call it by its word. Goat Lock. Goat Lock made me reconsider how I felt in general about sports anime, because before I could not stand it. They were either too ridiculous or took itself far too seriously, where it didn't feel like a show grounded in the sports itself. The stakes are too emotional rather than competitive, which isn't usually the case in real life, or at least. But Goat Lock did what I've always wanted sports anime to do, which is to solely focus on style and exaggeration of the sports itself rather than the feeling in the moment. It's a weird thing to get hanged up on, but when you watch it unfold, it's a huge difference. And it actually makes all the difference, in fact, because every big play or every little detail just feels far more important and more intimate, since it exaggerates every small and minute detail of every single play to its logical extreme. And the animation art style just perfectly meshes together with the tone, so what you get is a unique experience of a show unlike I've ever seen. I've seen hundreds of shows, none capture the magic of a single play like Blue Lock does. Whoever they let direct the show really fucking cooked, because I don't think I've ever been excited for sports. I've never cared about, I've never watched soccer before this. I don't know the first thing about soccer, nor have I actually watched a soccer match in its entirety yet. And yet I completely understood everything presented to me, since the show is more or less a deconstruction of what soccer is, so I really get to relish the uniqueness as someone who previously didn't really understand soccer on any real actual level. And the best part of it all is how little they spend on the small stuff, such as training, eating, side quests, conversations, right? Because 98% of the show is on soccer itself, which I appreciate, because nothing really annoys me more than waiting multiple episodes to watch the sport that I'm trying to watch, right? I'm trying to watch soccer. I don't need to wait 4 episodes to watch the soccer match go down. And I can go on and on and on about this show, but allow me to end it by dropping this not an S tier. Not even a God tier, bro. I need to put this shit in demon tier. This show is unironically different, and the team really cooked on Goat Lock this year, so fucking demon tier. Alright, boys, and I think that'll be all for this video, right? There are, like I said, other shows I could have interviewed or reviewed, but there isn't a whole lot to be said about other shows, I don't know, recording it as a sword, right? God, I can only talk so long about some of these shows before I start sound like a broken record. So let's just end it here. I think I've gone over pretty much all the important shows this season, some of the less important shows, and all that good shit. Therefore, I think this is where we end, boys. This is it. I'll see y'all next season winter, which is really spring, but it's really weird how it works, because it's already winter's ending and we're going to spring, but we're in enemy side, so